welcome to a new episode of Hello World. Today I'm really looking forward to this conversation. It's one of my favorite topics. We're going to speak about innovation. And with me I have Hugo de Sousa, who is an award-winning T-shaped entrepreneur with more than 20 years of experience within consulting, startups and governments, and always working with innovation. So I'm really looking forward to have this conversation with him. So when Hugo is not doing or challenging companies, he's also a lecturer. He speaks at tech and innovation events. And what I'm really fascinated about is his newest addition to the corporate innovation community, the Innovation Cafe. So he invites people to speak about innovation and it's shared on YouTube. So if you haven't already looked into it, please do. So welcome to the show, Hugo.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very, very much for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for joining. I'm really happy. We haven't really met in person more than over the screen, but I've been following you for quite some time, and it's always interesting to see what is you're blogging about and speaking about. So I'm happy to have somebody who is as passionate about innovation that I am. So I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Before we start, I mean, you've been working with innovation for so many years. I'm sure you have one moment or one project that you are maybe the most proud of that you've been part of. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, I will say I have 3 projects, not just one, not only one. The first was when I was invited to help to design the strategy to merge, let's say, the technology and information systems of the National Tourism Agency, or the Department of Tourism in Portugal. It was quite exciting to be able not just to optimize technology, but mostly helping the board to think about the GDP. How can we help the country to become more competitive and better to attract tourists and better tourists? So I think that was exciting because it wasn't just a CTO role, it was a bit of a CIO role. Yeah. And this was more than 10 years ago. The second project was one of my startups, where I've helped more than 100 people to get out of unemployment by retraining them. So I was teaching software development with quite an innovative business model, because, you know, unemployed people from different areas, it was hard to, I call it career shifters. Yeah. So after 12 weeks, many of them, I would say more than 75%, were able to succeed in the technology world. So I'm really proud, not just because it was my startup, but because I was helping people to get out of an unemployment situation. The third was, I would say 5 years ago, when I was invited by the Secretary of State for Justice to co-lead the first innovation team, I would say, in the Portuguese government. And I was able to design the digital strategy, the digital standards, and help to position, again, the country in the different level of how we address innovation as a whole. And today is a benchmark. So helping my country and helping people are always things I'm always proud of.
Yeah, I can understand that. Those are all 3 very, very interesting projects, of course. And I think that's also one of the really cool things with innovation, is that you can have the possibility to maybe step outside of what you're doing normally and find the time to do things that can make a difference. So I'm thinking that we're going to speak about 3 different topics actually today. So one is we're focusing more on corporate innovation than startups, because in my opinion, at least, startups are innovation. They start from an idea, and I think the main challenge is really within corporates that are established and have their business model and their ways of working. To get innovative there, it's much bigger challenge. So let's speak about how was it before, prior to COVID-19? Because a lot of things have changed this year, I think. But in my experience, going back before that, it is a challenge with corporate innovation. So in your experience, who do you think are triggering? Who are the ones driving corporate innovation? And would you consider the challenges? And out of those who succeed, what are the main success factors actually?
Okay, so first of all, I think you are absolutely right. It's very hard to address corporate innovation because these usually medium to large organizations are not optimized to innovate and to innovate continuously. Organizations that are already established with business models that are already proven are optimized for efficiency.
Exactly.
So the goal is to become better over time. The goal is not to reinvent their business model or come up with the next big thing. So all the incentive and reward in particular, everything is designed for efficiency. Sometimes many of these companies also address continuous improvement. That's why Lean is so popular, Six Sigma, Kaizen. But we are talking about incremental innovation. So small improvements to things that already exist. And in fact, if organizations are really good doing this, if managers are really good optimizing and thinking about efficiency, in the long term, they will probably destroy their company because they are not thinking about the future and about reinventing. So that's why nowadays many authors talk about ambidextrous organizations that are able to exploit the existing business model while exploring the next business model. And that's why it is so hard. We've seen many disruptions in the past few years. Classic companies, classic examples such as Kodak, Starbucks. We can talk about many of these well-known examples. I think that now after COVID-19, there was, I will say, there is a burning platform for many companies to reinvent themselves. We are already observing a few things. Many companies trying to pivot their business model, shift to a different position. Many will probably disappear. Others will be able to succeed, and others will grow exponentially because they were already prepared for that. For instance, Zoom is more valuable than the 5 top airlines in the world. And in fact, they are competing on the same space. Usually it's about business meetings. So now that I can't travel, I will have a business meeting in a different, using a different technology, not an airplane, but an online video conference platform. But it's hard because it's like a person used to run, and suddenly, okay, you now need to become a professional swimmer. That's why it's very hard to transform, because it's a radical change. And you are right again, because startups, there's a hype about startups, plenty of incubators, accelerators out there. But in the corporate innovation world, there are only, let's say, a few of us thinking about corporate innovation. And I also think that many CEOs are probably not prepared because the lack of knowledge regarding corporate innovation, which is weird because it's a subset of strategy. But again, we have shareholders, we have many incentives to protect the business model. We don't have sufficient incentives to reinvent the business model. So it's all about risk. And of course, if there's uncertainty, there's risk. If there's risk, the CEO and the board, even if they are willing to innovate, it's going to be hard because of shareholders, stakeholders, and all of that. So it's kind of tricky to do it right.
Yeah, exactly. In my experience, I mean, we've had lots of workshop with companies and management teams, and to be honest, we always come up with really interesting possibilities going forward. But then they go home and they start their operations as usual. So in my experience as well, I think one of the challenges are that there aren't really the role who has the responsibility to drive it. They might not have the methodologies in place to actually take that idea and see it through and actually, do the hard work and talk to customers, validate the ideas and pivot all the time they need before they can launch. So there's also a sort of an issue, at least among sort of mid-sized companies, that you don't really have the muscles and the resources, neither competence-wise, but also time-wise, because they are also operational. Have you experienced the same?
No, yes, indeed. I experienced the same as a consultant and as a former head of innovation in a few organizations. I do experience the same. So hopefully now, because there is a burning platform due to COVID-19, we will see a few changes. And another thing that you probably asked is who's responsible for innovation. And I think it's the board, it's the CEO. If it doesn't come from there, it's going to be really hard. It's not going to be the IT team, because IT is worried about applications, keep the lights blinking on the data center. So this is strategic. If it doesn't come from there, even if there are a few crazy guys or entrepreneurs willing to innovate, bring a few methods such as design thinking in partnerships with startups, running hackathons, it's not going to work. And even worse, it becomes innovation theater.
Yeah.
What's innovation theater? It's a set of actions that we do. They look great, so beanbags, fun everywhere. But end of the day, it's not adding value to the organization. And then there's frustration.
Yeah.
I've had a meeting with the CEO a few weeks ago, and he was like, you know what? I've just shut down my innovation lab because those guys spent a lot of money. The lab was so cool, but no value at all.
No. And
So
exactly. It's a challenge to really be able to turn it into business value. And I think that is an important part of the process, to be able to somewhere along before you launch, be able to show that you have a valid business case. And sometimes I think we sort of get dazzled by the cool things we can do, and we forget that we need to actually earn money on it by the end of the day for it to be successful. And I think that's one of the challenges as well, that sometimes you get the most, the innovative people, and they get driven by the ideas and so on, but they forget the reality. So I think you need really to have both type of personalities and components, and maybe not have innovation labs, but actually try to incorporate innovation in the normal organization in a different manner instead.
Yeah, so there are many ways to innovate. First of all, I think you need to define where you want to innovate. So if you are a bank, you need to say, okay, we want to become the best retail bank for young people. So we know where we want to innovate. Then it's about your portfolio. Okay, we are going to do it internally, maybe by changing the incentive and reward system, setting up a lab where people can come up with different ideas, disruptive ideas. But probably we also need to start a venture capital fund, a corporate CVC, corporate venture capital, where we'll invest in seed stage or maybe Series A startups, because this is not about efficiency. This is about bets.
Yeah.
We cannot all or everything in the same bet. We need a portfolio of bets.
Exactly.
Depending on the type of innovation. So I would say, start a venture capital fund, invest in early stage startups, because sometimes it's really hard to innovate internally because people are ready for that, and that's normal. Or else those employees will rather be in a startup, but they are not in a startup because probably they are not risk takers. So that's fine.
Yeah.
We need people that protect the core business, because that is going to pay the bills, that really fund innovation efforts. But we need this portfolio of different bets. So that's why there's a famous model, the Three Horizons model, where maybe 50% of the budget will go to the core, 20% will go to Horizon 2 or adjacent innovation, repurposing capabilities that already exist, and coming up with the next big thing, meaning creating a new market and a new capability, or Horizon 3, it needs to become part of the strategy. So end of the day, I think that in a post-COVID world where we talk about sustainability, a good leader needs to think about protecting the organization, not just a fiscal year. And protecting the organization and shareholders and stakeholders, employees and families, is also thinking of, okay, the next big thing.
Exactly.
Think of Elon Musk, what he said when he sent that rocket to...
Yeah, exactly.
In back, he said, okay, so this is over. This is already part of our business. Let's think about Mars now.
Yeah.
It's our Mars shot. So, okay, we have a business here. It's a commercial flight to go outside of this planet.
Yeah.
Now we need to think about the next step as well. So this is the type of leader that we need nowadays, or else we'll have a lot of innovation theater and frustration in Kodak moments, and that's not what we need. We need to protect people, and protecting people, employees in particular and their families, is protecting the company from disruption.
Exactly.
So it's really critical.
Yeah. And I think if you should point in something that's been good with the COVID-19, is that I think that everybody's been forced to reinvent themselves to some point, at least, that suddenly it was possible to launch something after 3 weeks, even if you hadn't done all the analysis, you didn't know the answer, you didn't know if it's going to get the right return on investment and so on. But it was no choice, because in 4 weeks later, that wouldn't really had any value anyway. So I'm really hoping that the realization that you could actually work in that more agile way, that can continue to work, even if we are, seeing more saving programs and so on. I really hope that stays on in that sense.
Yeah,
so,
hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think another thing that we're seeing is the understanding of being data driven and using data to be innovative and understanding the value of data in a different manner. I think during COVID as well, we've realized that we've taken decisions that we didn't really have the data to be able to do. We've also realized that we have to do things smarter. And now with the saving programs, we also need to be smarter and find different ways of working or new ideas to do. So, and you just started Metanone, which is also a new startup within AI sensory, actually, because I think AI is really coming a lot as well. So tell us, what is AI sensory about specifically?
It's about helping humans to become better. We call it human brilliancy. It's about leveraging artificial intelligence, data science, and sensors, or IoT. And the thing that will wrap all of these three technologies, let's say, is human-centered design. Usually what we find is a data science team here and there, probably a few cognitive engineers here and there, and designers in the other corner. I don't remember talking with an organization that is doing all of these four things at the same time. So at Metanone, we are trying to help humans to become better. We want to enhance, to augment our capability, in particular our sensors. Okay, so vision, taste, all the five sensors with technology. Regarding data, you are absolutely right. Organizations still decide many things with the method that many of us call the highest paid person opinion in the room.
Yeah, or gut feeling.
So we don't decide with real data. We don't decide with facts. So we don't use the scientific method to formulate hypotheses and then run experiments and take decisions with data. And we cannot afford to do that in a world that is uncertain, because due to COVID, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Exactly.
Another lockdown, no airplanes, so high uncertainty requires a different way of working. And the way is how innovators think. It's a scientific method. So data is key. And many times we already know a lot of things about clients, about literally everything about our markets. The data is already there. But because there is no innovation strategy, there is no data strategy, there is no artificial intelligence strategy, we don't leverage the assets that we already have internally. So now it's becoming, I would say, a trend to have a chief AI or a chief data scientist. Yeah. But these things are not closely tied with the strategy of where we want to innovate in how the type of bet, the incentive and reward system. We have a problem. We will have the data geeks or the data engineers with no credibility in the boardroom, and then again we have theater. So this is really hard.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's the same situation as we had when we started discussing digital transformation, that we need to move the value of being data driven to the board agenda or the management team's agenda, so that it's really more of incorporating it with the overall corporate strategy than having a separate strategy about it. So it's a part of your business and doing things differently. One cool thing with the data that I think can have an effect on how we innovate is actually that normally we want to start with a use case. We want to, interview customers, find jobs that they're doing, that there are unserved needs and so on. But with data, we can also look at the data and try to see things we don't know, because we don't know what we don't know, so to say. So trying to find patterns and innovate from the data instead of maybe going in and knowing this is what we're looking for and start innovating from there. You could turn it all around. So I'm thinking that methodologies like hackathons and stuff are going to be more data discovery and so on, be more useful or common going forward within the innovation space.
No, I agree. All of those techniques to come up with something new, to find unmet customer needs, are really necessary, but they need to be closely tied with the innovation thesis. So where you want to innovate and how you want to innovate. Yeah. Then, okay, feel free to give the freedom to your team, such as Google. By Friday, guys, Friday, it's your day. Play with existing data, play with technology, come up with something new. Maybe that will become our next big thing. But again, without a vision of where we want to innovate or a thesis, without a strategy, those initiatives are cool. It's fun. It's not going to change. So what I think organizations need is a bit of what Microsoft was able to achieve recently. Let's look at Microsoft. The usually successful company with Bill Gates. Then it was struggling with Steve Ballmer. And now with the new CEO, Satya Nadella, he brought the growth mindset.
Yeah.
So we are not worried about 10% growth a year. We are worried about 10x growth a year, a 10x, a growth mindset. We need to unlearn many things. We need to grow 100 times per year, which means shifting our business model to buying licenses, to a platform business model where people subscribe. And this will change the organization. And then, okay, we can run hackathons to find patterns in data. We can use machine learning to process unstructured data, because usually unstructured data is where the value is.
Yeah.
And we have tons of unstructured data that we cannot just simply run a query. We need to train algorithms, machine learning. It's cognitive programming. It's a different way to find things. But without proper funding, again, without proper culture, incentive, and reward, I think it's going to be exciting, and then it's going to be disappointing in month number 2, because it's going to be really hard. And the other thing is, you don't measure innovation by just measuring revenue, because it takes time to convert an idea into revenue.
Exactly.
So you need to measure traction, number of new users, number of clients. There are many techniques. Actually, the Innovation Cafe today is going to talk about innovation accounting.
Yeah.
It's the way to convince the CFO to invest in innovation. It's the way even for the CEO to support innovation efforts, because many disruptive ideas are not profitable until year 1 or year 2.
Yeah.
But also, if you don't do it, your core business will probably decline and die one of these days. So innovation accounting is the area that many people still don't understand, and it's key to support the hackathons and all of the innovation efforts you want to put in place.
Yeah, I agree. We need to ask ourselves, what is success in terms of innovation? Because it takes time.
Exactly.
So trying to conclude today, if we are to give like 3 main advices or recommendations to corporate innovation, because obviously what we're talking about here, setting up the things, getting the funding and all that, that's not going to happen in a moment like that. So what are the sort of the 3 things they should start doing immediately?
So the first thing, I think it's about leadership. Leaders need to think of innovation as something that will help the organization to succeed, not just now, current fiscal year, but also in the future. So it starts with leadership, proper education at board level, okay? Second thing is changing the culture to enable people to disagree, to come up with different ideas. We don't want yes men, people that go into a meeting room and they agree with everything. So it's about changing the culture. And the third thing, it's about the right incentive and reward system. Because we can talk innovation, we can talk about the need to come up with disruptive ideas, but then the incentive and reward system, I'm talking about HR now, is all about the current fiscal year. So the priority will be the fiscal year and not 5-10 years time. So it's leadership, it's culture, incentive, and reward. From here, we can then address hackathons, innovation labs, venture capital, partnerships with startups, with design thinking. But without these 3 points clearly addressed, I don't think we will have the results that we want. Instead, we will have innovation theater, and we need to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah. So more or less, you need to be prepared to do the hard work. There is no easy ride.
It's about being brave. It's about courage. It's about courage in particular, because chances are, if you are trying to innovate, you will not succeed in the first year, maybe not even in the second year, because it's about running experiments. It's a scientific, and failure is not failure, it's learning.
Exactly.
It's learning by doing. Amazon, there was a smartphone called Fire, right? A few years ago, they were trying to compete with Apple. Where is Fire right now? There is no Fire smartphone from Amazon, but there is Alexa.
Yeah, exactly.
Many components from Fire are now inside of Alexa.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of innovation. We think we want X, then we learn how people use the system or the piece of hardware, and we have that thing of, oh wow, so this is the right purpose for this type of device.
Exactly.
YouTube was a dating platform when it started. Now it's not a dating platform, but they know that because they launched YouTube, and people were uploading videos of cats and dogs and whatever. I think it was PayPal. It was a cryptocurrency platform. Now it's something completely different. So it wasn't a failure. They've actually learned how people use that product and service.
Yeah.
You cannot formulate that in a business plan.
No, exactly.
You literally need to run experiments and learn how people use your new product and service.
Exactly. So thank you so much today for taking the time, Hugo. It's been as fun as I hoped it would be to speak to you.
It was a pleasure. Okay, hope to see you and talk to you again.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So I'm happy seeing that you need to be brave, you need to challenge, you need to test and learn. Those are all things that I really like to do, and I think that's we have a great future going forward, and I really hope that we can continue the good things that we've experienced in terms of agility from this spring. So thank you so much for joining today. This will be published on LinkedIn, of course. Be sure to like it there and share with the rest of the world. Thank you. Bye-bye.